Every year when the Daytona 500 comes around, when a new season comes around, we always look back at those who won the Daytona 500. We look back at the legends who made their legacies by winning the greatest race in NASCAR. But we also look back at the ones who missed it. The guys like Mark Martin and Tony Stewart, who were great drivers, some of the best of their eras, but could just never get it done for whatever reason. But one thing we don't look at as much are the great drivers today that aren't winning the Daytona 500 or haven't won it at least yet. And that's what I want to look at. There are some pretty elite drivers, guys who are champions of this sport, who have not won the Daytona 500. Some are young guns. Some are grizzly veterans. Others are drivers who are great at super speedways but just can't get it done here. Wonder where we've heard that before. And then there's just some who are clear-cut enigmas who have been kind of almost cheated out of winning. So today, I want to look at 5 current elite NASCAR drivers who could win their first Daytona 500 in 2022. Now, first I want to say, an elite driver, in my opinion, is someone who year in and year out is a championship contender. This doesn't mean that they were great in the Daytona 500 in years past, but it does mean that they're some of the most talented drivers both in our modern era and that we've ever seen in NASCAR. So with that being said, let's get into it and see the 5 drivers who could win their first 500 this year. The first man up is our defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson this past year has shown to have been one of the greatest driver's talents that I think we've ever seen in NASCAR. A lot of people used to compare him to Jeff Gordon. Well, he validated those comparisons last year. But the thing is, Kyle Larson has one chink in his armor, one deficiency that just, for some reason, he can't overcome. And that is super speedway racing. Every single race last year, Kyle Larson looked before or during or at the end of it to have been a contender for the win, except the 4 super speedway races, where he would either crash or blow an engine or just have something go wrong. And you see, when you look back at his past in the Daytona 500, you would think it's almost like that. And for the most part, it kind of is. He started off abysmally in 2014 and 15. But since those finishes that were below 30th, he has never finished below 20th. And in the last 3 years, he's actually been in the top 10 every single year. But the thing is, he's not up front a ton. He has never scored a top 5 in the Daytona 500. His average finish in the Great American Race is 17th, and he's only led 17 laps. But the thing is, Kyle Larson has proved, especially in many of the last 5 or 6 500s, that he's able to stay up front and compete for a win. Next up is probably the hottest free agent of the year, Brad Keselowski, who now is running for his own team, RFK. Well, you see, Brad Keselowski is the winningest super speedway driver in NASCAR currently today. I've talked about this a bit before, that he's someone who can always win at Talladega, but he only has 1 win at Daytona. That's the problem. He has 1 win at Daytona, and it's not the Great American Race. It's the summer race in 2016. And when you look at how he's done in the 500 in years past, he has done pretty terribly. Aside from 2013 and 14 when he was in the top 5 competing for the win, he has for the most part finished below 20th. His only 2 finishes that were above 20th since 2014 was 2019 and 2021, where he finished 12th and 13th. Not exactly inspiring for someone who people say is the greatest super speedway racer of our era. He has led a lot of laps, I'll give you that. In the last couple years, he's gotten better at running up front. He led 30 laps in 2020, but the thing is, he just can't stay around to finish these races off. Those 2 top 5s came at the start of the Gen 6 era, and his average finish in the Daytona 500 since coming into the Cup Series is 24th. Again, there's a reason why he hasn't won the 500. It's just for some reason, he can't stay out of trouble in this race. But, you know what? He is one of the greatest super speedway racers of our era, so maybe he'll break through soon. Next up is the man who has competed for the least amount of Daytona 500s on this list, Chase Elliott. And when you look back at his past, aside from the 2nd place finish he got in 2021, it's again not too inspiring. But the thing that's different about Chase Elliott from just about every other person on this list, except for the guy coming up next, is that Chase Elliott has led in almost every Daytona 500 he's competed in, with the exception being 2019. He led 3 laps his rookie year, 39 laps in 2017 where he was up front towards the end, 4 laps in 2018, 23 in 2020, and 3 laps led in 2021 while he was on his way to that runner-up finish I talked about. That runner-up finish being his only top 5 and top 10 in the Daytona 500. Though he's led 72 laps, his average finish is 20th in this race, so again, it's just not inspiring. There's a reason all 5 of these guys are on this list. Next up is a driver who has brief flare-ups for competing at the Daytona 500's finish. That's Kyle Busch. He has started in 16 Daytona 500s, spanning back to 2005, only missing 2015 due to injury. And he's led almost in every single one. He didn't lead last year or in 2018, but when you look back in the last couple years, he's led just about every other one. He led the most laps back in both 2008 and 2009, finishing 4th in 08 because he chose the wrong line, and finishing 41st in 2009 because he got caught up in somebody else's mess. The thing about Busch is that he's gonna finish up front in a lot of these. He has 3 top 5s and 5 top 10s in these 16 starts, which for a super speedway is not that bad, and he's led almost 300 laps in the 500. Though, like I said, over half of those were well over a decade ago. His average finish is a 20.5, but when you look back in years past, like 2016 and 2019, he did run up front a lot in this race. So he has the ability, it's again, all has to do with the big one and what other people around him do. He finished 14th last year, so he was at least around. I think that Busch could be somebody who just needs to follow his teammates, because for some reason, Denny Hamlin, for instance, knows how to get it done better than he does when it comes to staying out of crashes. Now, the last man we'll talk about is the longest tenured guy on this list for the 500, and it's Martin Truex Jr., who's competed in the last 17 runnings of the Daytona 500. He has 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, has only led 50 laps in his time in the 500, and again has an average finish of 20th. The thing about Truex is he's shown flashes before where he can lead. He does have a good car, he just can't get it done for whatever reason. In recent years, it's been getting caught up in other people's messes. But the thing is, he's also been up front running in the top 10 in a lot of these races as well. And he has the good enough equipment to do it too. When I think of Truex, though, when it comes to the Daytona 500, I think of 2016, where it seemed like everything opened up perfectly for him to get the win, get his first 500, really start to carve out a legacy, because at that point he hadn't had much success in NASCAR, and then Denny Hamlin got just ahead of him in what pretty much was the closest finish in Daytona 500 history. So it's not like he can't be up there, even with a ton of people out there. It's just a matter of basically just hitting the right line. I think Truex, of anyone on this list that isn't a Hendrick driver, would be the most popular driver to get this done. Now, there's 3 big reasons, too, that have to do with all these drivers for why I think they could get their first Daytona 500 victory this year. Number 1 is the one everyone will talk about, the new car. It could change up the game and maybe factor in really well to the driving style of whatever driver it might be, whether it be Truex, Busch, Keselowski, Elliott, or Larson. Or, for instance, it could just be that they're incredibly talented drivers. Yes, I know that super speedway racing has been viewed to be just a roll of the dice, and that is part of it. But at the same time, it does take skill and it does take intelligence when it comes to getting them up front. There's a reason why so many drivers generally are up front for the most part, and it's because they just know how to get in the lines the right way. So, they're really incredibly talented drivers, they're smart drivers, they might be able to make their way up to the front. And then, as I alluded to before, pure dumb luck might be on their side. You never know. You could be like James Buescher, run 11th going into turn 3, come out of turn 4 with the lead because everyone crashed each other. You just never know with these tracks. So yes, pure dumb luck could get any of these guys their first Daytona 500, and I don't think any of them would be complaining a bit. Now, with all that, I want to pass this all to you. Do you think any of these 5 drivers are going to win their first Daytona 500 this year? And if so, which one is the most likely to do so? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video. share this video and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content like this. Thank you to all of my channel members for your continued support. And until next time, have a good one.